Will a passionate and loyal consumer base be enough to push Zevia towards public market gains? On June 25th of 2021, Zevia filed an S1 document with the SEC. An S1 document is essentially an initial public offering document or an IPO document, and the Better For You beverage company does have the intention of raising $100 million from the sale of common stock shares. For those that aren't too familiar with the beverage brand Zevia and just kind of the founding story, and maybe even around stevia, the natural sweetener that Zevia really leans on for its products, kind of take you guys back a little bit here. In 2007, Zevia was founded by Ian Eisenberg and a husband-wife lawyer combo, Derek and Jessica Newman. Now, 2 years before that, they actually heard about stevia from a friend in California that they kind of described as a health nut. And the three founders kind of talked about stevia and their personal kind of consumption behaviors already around diet sodas and artificial sweeteners, and said we should make a beverage company around stevia. But if you kind of think about that time frame, so this is 2005 to 2007, so during the R&D process and even during the first initial kind of commercialization phase, stevia actually was not legal as a food additive. It actually was denied through a few petition processes with the FDA for generally recognized as safe or GRAS status. But because of the 1994 DSHEA Act, stevia was able to be sold in the US market as a dietary supplement. So Zevia, when it launched and when it was in its R&D production kind of time, when they were going through the hiring of a flavor artist and kind of working through the very bitter aftertaste of stevia, all that time they weren't allowed to call themselves a soda. They weren't able to call themselves a beverage. It really was a dietary supplement. And those that were big fans of stevia during that time, and it's been used for decades and decades before in other countries, really were saying that the government was not allowing stevia to be a food additive because they were in the back pockets of the artificial sweetener industry. So the regulatory body like the FDA was really kind of getting a lot of heat, and it really didn't help that a year later in 2008, they actually approved 2 stevia combo products from some extremely large companies. The first to get GRAS status was Truvia. That was actually a product that was commercialized in a partnership between Cargill and Coca-Cola Company, and then Purevia, which was created by Pure Circle and PepsiCo. So very large companies, didn't help out the FDA in any way with them approving that a year later, even though a ton of companies were trying to get stevia approved for a food additive before that. But even despite not having the ability to call themselves a beverage or a soda, Zevia did pretty well during those first couple of years, and the Zevia founders knew that a lot of consumers were trying to be like them, be healthier, looking for better options, not necessarily looking for artificial sweeteners or sugary drinks. They were trying to replace those with a great packaged beverage option. So they pushed through. They did the best that they could, especially with how kind of green they were if you consider like the beverage industry, the CPG industry as a whole. And that kind of takes us to the second act of Zevia. In 2010, the 3 founders sold the company to Paddy Spence. And at this time, Zevia had about 4 employees and was doing somewhere just under $7 million in annual sales. Now, just to kind of dig in a little bit around Paddy Spence, because he's a pretty interesting guy. He is a dual degree holder from Harvard, his undergrad, and then he has his MBA from Harvard School of Business. Despite kind of having that prestigious college background, he does come from a blue-collar, economically depressed kind of background, and it was really during that time where he showed that he was a purebred entrepreneur. And this is very important for me to kind of mention this, because I think purebred entrepreneurs, people that have shown that they've been an entrepreneur their whole life, have tried businesses, maybe failed at businesses throughout their lifetime, those are the people that you really want to be running companies. So in his early years, he was a paper boy, so he had a paper route. Middle school, high school, he had a landscaping company. And then after he graduated from Harvard Business School with his MBA, instead of going to Wall Street like a lot of his other classmates, he decided to go west and become the first leader in the sales division for a plant-based cereal and snack brand, Kashi. So he did that for a few years before he left and founded Spins, the market research company for the natural food space. Many of you guys probably are pretty familiar with Spins. And he ran that company until 2004 when he sold off that company. So now, under the control of a seasoned veteran of the natural, organic, CPG, better for you space, that also happens to be authentically living this kind of no sugar, low sugar lifestyle, Zevia really blossomed into the beverage powerhouse that we know today. And Zevia's product lineup has grown extensively since the beginning of the company. They had 3 flavors of soda initially, and that has turned into a platform brand with 6 product lines and approximately 37 flavor variations. Now, outside of the zero-calorie soda that Zevia launched with, they have sparkling water, which launched in 2016. They have energy drinks that also launched in 2016. They have a mixers line that launched in 2017, an organic tea line that started in 2018, and then a kids-specific lineup that started in 2020. Now, these innovation categories beyond the OG soda plays comprise of 14% of Zevia's net sales in 2020. Now, kind of digging into a little bit of the financial data, I want to fast forward to the present day and run through just the top line revenue first. In 2019, the net sales were $85.6 million. In 2020, the net sales were $110 million. That was up 29% year over year. And then in the first quarter of 2021, they saw net sales of $30.7 million, which was up 36% year over year from the 2020 quarter one earnings. Now, diving a little bit deeper into sales channel stats, in 2020, Zevia was distributed in more than 20,000 retail locations in the United States. They had a 21% growth year over year in their brick and mortar accounts. And Zevia also said that they outpaced the broader zero-calorie soda category. And this is according to Spins. Zevia has experienced 25% and 14% retail sales growth in the last 52 and 12 weeks ended May 16th of 2021, respectively, while the category has experienced 9% and 3% growth during those same periods. Now, Zevia is not only strong in their brick and mortar channels, they also do very well on e-commerce. E-commerce makes up about 13% of their total sales in 2020. And additionally, Zevia was the highest selling carbonated soft drink on Amazon's platform in 2020. And that's kind of important because a lot of the discovery and trial is happening for Zevia on Amazon, and that's kind of leading to additional sales offline. 53% of Zevia's customers that did buy on Amazon went on to buy additional cases or singular products from brick and mortar locations in 2020. Digging in a little bit deeper to the actual accounts that Zevia sells is extremely strong in. In 2020, Zevia's largest customer was 20% of their total revenue. That was coming from the distributor UNFI, and my assumption is most of that is going to Whole Foods markets. And overall, the largest 10 customers of Zevia made up around 80% of sales in 2020. Some big ones to note is another distributor, KeHE, made up 16% of the revenue, and then Kroger made up 12%, and then Amazon made up 12% of the revenue in 2020 as well. Now, in its latest filing, the 2021 quarter one filing, Zevia did become profitable, at least for now, but I'll kind of run down where I see that kind of changing, at least in the short term. They do have strong gross margins at 46%. That was their kind of latest number that they had in terms of their gross margin. But despite all that, Zevia has had net losses since the inception of the company. And in that 2021 quarter one net income that they did turn, the first one in the company's history, it was only $19,000. So how has Zevia operated in the red for all these years? It's obviously they've been able to attract outside investors because of their growth story. The kind of most recent one that has been publicized was a $200 million minority investment by an investment fund that manages pension funds in Canada. But now that Zevia has proven that they can turn a profit on their own, I think that the initial public offering, additional sales that they are going to offer, they're going to get upwards of $100 million. They're going to use that money to go back into kind of the red. They're going to use that money to get really aggressive in the market because they know that there's a little bit of like a land grab still available for the initial kind of markets that Zevia is going for. They kind of were able to see a little bit into the future with the COVID-19 effect. A lot of those behaviors showed that consumers were looking for better for you options. They were prioritizing health, nutrition, wellness that Zevia is really strong in. And despite having 88% estimation of the market share in the naturally sweetened carbonated soft drinks market in 2020, if you kind of pull this back, you start to see just how much Zevia opportunity is available. And as things grow, they're going to have more at bats. Beverages in the US that were zero-calorie, plant-based, natural sweeteners did grow about 66% from 2018 to 2020. There's a ton of consumer awareness around the negative effects of traditional sugar-laden beverages, and this is really changing and accelerating the trajectory of this particular segment of the CPG beverage industry. You also have a lot of like regulatory risk that's happening with sugar. I think 50 or so jurisdictions have somehow imposed some type of sugar tax, so this is also a benefit to a company like Zevia that uses all natural, zero-calorie plant-based sweeteners. So despite them having a very strong market share in that particular niche, as more consumers from mainstream start to switch over to these plant-based, naturally sweetened, zero-calorie beverages, and they start to search for those in conventional retail markets, and you look at just like what Zevia's market share in those are, you start to see how big the opportunity could be for Zevia. Zevia only has 18% market share in the soft drink category in the just natural channel, and if you look at the conventional retail channel, it has less than a 0.5% of market share. Zevia is a asset-light business model. They do not own their own manufacturing. They do not own their own distribution. So all this is outsourced. This helps them in reducing costs and overhead, so providing more financial flexibility. They also have a ton of capacity that's built in because those partners, if there is a ton of growth with Zevia, will be able to scale up much quicker. And by not focusing on manufacturing and focusing on logistics and operations, all those types of things, they are able to kind of focus on what they're best at, which is marketing, advertising, sales duties, and focusing on ESG initiatives. Now, talking about ESG initiatives and just how Zevia also is a certified B corporation, Zevia is guided by its mission to support healthy individuals and communities through offering all natural, plant-based sweetened beverages. This purpose really sets the tone for the brand's existence and as it strives to make the world a better place. And it can also be seen through its environmental, social, and corporate governance or ESG focuses, and it's embodied again by that certified B Corporation status. So kind of the 5 areas that Zevia is focused on is 1, improving public health. Zevia estimates its consumers have eliminated almost 40,000 metric tons of sugar from their diets since 2011. The second one is around providing access. Zevia's products are priced at an average retail cost per ounce of 7 cents, representing the 37th percentile within all liquid refreshment beverages, making it an economically attractive option for a wide range of consumers. The third is around delivering sustainability. Zevia has never sold a single plastic bottle, which it estimates has eliminated 15,000 metric tons of plastic bottles from the supply chain by selling only aluminum packaging. The fourth one is around creating an inclusive company culture. All full-time Zevia employees have an equity interest and are paid a fair wage and receive robust benefits. And then lastly, Zevia is focused around driving positive social change. Zevia balances profit and purpose to meet the highest verified standards of social and environmental performance, public transparency, and legal accountability. Now, before I end on final thoughts, I do want to just kind of talk around some additional maybe risks of just stevia. The singular plant-based, zero-calorie, natural sweetener that Zevia's product platform is built off of. Now, there's a lot of things going on with climate change and a lot of things going on with just availability of water, maybe not necessarily through the context of today's lens, but in the future, there could be a bunch of risks where getting the appropriate amount of stevia, the appropriate amount of water to grow that plant would become an issue for a company like Zevia and anybody else that is procuring that ingredient for their products. Because Zevia is obviously not the largest company in the beverage industry, they don't have as much of the buying power, and that could cause some risks. Zevia also only has one current supplier of stevia, so they're going to need to kind of get themselves out of that risk. They're going to need to diversify their supply chain further, because you never know what is going to happen in the global agricultural products market. But rolling into the final thoughts, by relying on stevia as a sweetener, Zevia has really been able to succeed where other soda companies have failed miserably. And I'm talking about very large beverage companies that have not done very well, where Zevia has proven that they can be successful. So you think about large product launches over the last decade like Coke Life, Pepsi True. I also believe that Vitamin Water also was using stevia for a while, and they kind of switched out of that, and a slew of other very large stevia sweetened beverage products that have failed. But Zevia, on the other hand, has stood by stevia as a sweetener, has formulated a ton of really strong products, flavors that do harmonize extremely well with bitter aftertaste, and beyond them being able to just really work well with that agricultural product, that natural plant-based sweetener that I think a lot of consumers would love to consume a lot more of if they can get a product that has taste parity to products that they are consuming on a normal basis. Zevia also is aligned within some mega consumer trends as well. The first one is around health and wellness. Second is around plant-based alternatives. Thirdly, around their sustainability and transparency initiatives. And then finally, them doing extremely well in an omni-channel retailing environment. Now, if you have questions around Zevia or anything around like the better for you beverage category, I would love if you guys would drop a comment below on this particular piece of content or reach out to me on any of my social media platforms.